Hello. On March 28th, 2011, my first critique for Betty Jo Tucker's website, ReelTalk Movie Reviews, was published. It was about the film Adam, starring Hugh Dancy and Rose Byrne. Now, I hadn't written for any websites prior to that point. I'd received advice from various critics, but on a hunch, a whim, I emailed Betty Jo with a review, and because there was an opening for that particular film, and this started this incredible journey of back and forth, sending reviews, getting feedback. I would say this experience has definitely not only changed the way I write and think, it's changed my life. It's allowed me to think about cinema, life, in an entirely new way. Betty Jo's poetry, for example, has inspired me a great deal. About a year before I started writing for her, I attended a poetry class up in the Dylan Thomas Centre in Swansea. It went very well. I made some good friends, lovely people and some terrific writers there. But above all, it was a positive experience. A lot more so than my university days, I can tell you. But I didn't know how or even where I might use my poetry until Betty Jo started incorporating poems into her reviews. And indeed, this has been an eye-opening thing for me, because I love including a rhyme or two in especially the soundtrack reviews that I've come to do. In 2014, I made the leap towards writing about movie soundtracks. This was quite scary because I'd never done anything like that before. I don't read music nor play an instrument, though I do have an ambition to one day perhaps learn to play the bassoon or contrabass clarinet. So this was uncharted territory for me, but I can honestly say that it's just gotten better and better. My first soundtrack review was for the Maleficent by James Newton Howard, which ended up being one of my favourite scores of that decade. I come at things from more of an emotional perspective than a technical one. It's about what the music does for me emotionally, as opposed to what the oboe's doing in the strings, although I do include some of that in the critique. There are certain reviews that I've done which I feel have really opened up new avenues of creative expression. With the soundtracks, I would say definitely Ennio Morricone's The Thing really allowed me to see the possibilities with that avenue of criticism. Likewise, my psychedelic reviews, which are really abstract and impressionistic, I was inspired by Manny Farber, great critic who wrote for the New Republic. I have his book Farber on Film, which changed the way I think about cinema and art and many other different aspects. Thinking outside the box, not approaching things necessarily in an ABC type of fashion, but more about the core themes, maybe bringing in things that are personal to the critic or person who's looking at that work of art, and just bringing entirely new ideas into it. Right at Your Door was quite an amazing opportunity to push forward this type of expression and get to the heart of it. I've had moments of self-doubt while writing film reviews. Sometimes I'll read somebody and I'll just think, gosh, if I could only think like that or be as witty as that. But then I take a few steps back, maybe take a couple of days away from writing, and I come back to it and I think, you know, I've always loved this. The critic who first got me interested really seriously into writing reviews, I'd read lots of stuff in variety movie guides. My English teacher even gave me a book, Guide for the Film Fanatic. But it was Barry Norman and his review of Gladiator in 2000 that really brought everything together and made it clear. It's like the clouds parted and the sun shone through and you will do this. I'd seen the film on a Friday, and over the weekend I watched Barry Norman's review, and it's like he crystallised and made concrete everything that I felt about that particular movie, and I thought, that's what I want to do. I want to write like that. So one can imagine the very first few attempts at this were really awkward, just trying to express oneself, but it was full of cliches. But there have been various techniques that I've tried out throughout the years, and some work better for me than others. Some ideas that I keep going and others maybe fall by the wayside. It's been a learning experience, and I'm by no means, an expert at this. I write what I feel, and what I feel is honest to the moment. And the funny thing about emotion and positive, negative, is that our opinions can change, they can evolve. Things that maybe we didn't like in the early days, maybe they gain in importance as the years go by. There are certain movies like The Punisher 2004. Didn't like it when I first saw it, but then over the years I've come to appreciate the performances and the music especially, and it's been real eye-opener in terms of seeing cinema in a new way. What does the future hold? Well, so far I've written 3 books, Magical Movie Moments, Incidental Gold, and A Poet Among Critics, and I'm by no means done yet. I think my poetry, my psychedelic reviews, in particular my soundtrack reviews, are really where I plan to extend myself the most. I'd never really want to feel that I've arrived, that I've conquered the mountain, as it were. I want to always be reaching and creating new ways. It's like the first line of a review. It's so important. And sometimes, even right after I've seen a movie, I don't know what that first line immediately will be. And it's finding that, and then, off to the races, and I know what I'm doing. And always reading books about the making of movies, watching documentaries, listening to the audio commentaries. I find all the behind the scenes stuff fascinating. I love cinema, and I love writing about movies. I love poetry, and being able to create the psychedelic reviews is kind of like a new way, perhaps. I don't know how many others will get inspired by it. It might be seen as a little arty and pretentious by some, but I find any way in which I can try to reach out and create new methods for making sense of cinema, which is still a relatively new art form. I mean, let's face it, 1895, and what, we're in 2021 now, so still in the early period. Who knows what the next 100 or 200 years are going to bring out, although I don't know if I'll be around for that, I doubt it. I'm 36 now, but Betty Jo's quite extraordinary, and her support for me over the years, it has meant the absolute world to me. And all I can say is, anyone out there, in whatever you do, if you can find that thing that you love doing, you'll never work a day in your life, as I think Confucius once wrote or said. So, ReelTalk Movie Reviews has been a fantastic experience, and continues to be, as we work our way through this difficult time, the lockdown and everything else, and all the transitions we'll have to make. I think it's important to bear in mind that you do something that you love, you put your heart and soul into it. There'll be naysayers, there's always naysayers with anything you do, whether you're a person who creates music, works in retail, whatever it is. But believe in what you do, because I certainly do. And having Betty Jo's support, it's fantastic. I'm Richard Jack Smith, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.